Hi,
Hello.
welcome to Hangouts on Air with SHM Shipcare. Oceans Day is just around the corner. So today we are going to talk a lot about oceans and plastic pollution that is hampering our marine environment. And the theme for this year's Ocean Day is "Our Oceans, Our Future." It's a very futuristic theme, and there's a lot that one can think about. That what are we doing to the oceans, and how are we hampering it? So plastic pollution is something that is plaguing us a lot these days. You must have observed a lot of posts, a lot of news that talk about, the beach cleanup, the Warsaw beach cleanup, or basically cleaning activities happening along the coast and all across the world. So you must be wondering, why is this suddenly getting so urgent? So to tell us more about this, we have a very special guest with us today, Dr. Deepak Apte, who is the director of BNHS Mumbai, that is Bombay Natural History Society Mumbai. He's a marine ecologist by profession, and he's an expert in marine environment and marine zoologist. He's also a member of the Maharashtra Animal Board Committee, and he's a recipient of the prestigious Whitley Award for his work on creating a protected environment for the giant clams in Lakshadweep. Dr. Apte, he has also published 4 books and 45 reviewed publications, along with several articles on the subject. So please join me and welcome Dr. Apte. Dr. Apte, so what has been, you are a marine ecologist and you have been doing a lot of projects in this area. So what is your view about the rising plastic pollution that is plaguing a marine environment?
Well, I'm glad at least this subject started receiving attention in the recent past. This is not something very new. I have been diving for last 30 years and I have seen more trash underwater than what you see on land. So it has been always a great concern for all those working underwater. Is the amount of trash that exists on seafloor is phenomenal. The tragedy is that majority of the people doesn't know what happens underwater. It's only when this trash started coming in huge quantum on the shores we realized that something is wrong with our habits. I think what is really required is cleaning of beaches is fine. It's like we are treating a disease, but we have to, in the first place, get rid of this disease in itself. I think we have to clean our minds first. Somehow, I believe, Indians as such, we are very uncivilized when it comes to disposal of waste. We care little about throwing away things, whether it's in public areas or even, in our backyards.
So
So
can you put
unless
down
our,
the speaker? I can't hear you.
can you hear now?
Yeah.
So unless, we clean up our minds, how you'll be able to clean up our beaches or forests or our, grasslands? So therefore, there is a larger introspection required, on this subject. If we have to really deal this issue, because this issue is of a epic proportion. What you see in terms of trash on beaches, and we have been recently hearing the news about cleaning of Mumbai beach. This is a very small section of a beach. See how much garbage has been collected in, just few hours or few days. Imagine the whole coast of India, and there is 1,000 times more garbage lying on the ocean beds, which we yet don't know. And the amount of impacts it had on coastal and marine biodiversity are phenomenal. There's no doubt about it. It's not just plastic, which is visible to you. There is a lot of invisible plastic from cosmetic, industries goes as this plastic beads, silicone beads, are far more dangerous than visible plastic, because that is what really will kill large number of more pelagic animals per se. I think we have to look at this issue very seriously, uh, because this is probably one of the major causative factor for decline in large mammals. You see, a lot of mortality of whales world over is also mostly attributed to plastic,
Okay.
which is quite worrisome.
So, have you observed from a zoological and from a marine ecologist point of view, have you observed any stark pattern in the marine environment due to this pollution?
No, there is certainly, in certain areas where, for example, if you see disposal of fishing nets, of course, is also a kind of a nylon which is again a cause of concern because most of these air-breathing marine animals like sea turtles, like dolphins, like dugong or whales, they do get entangled into dispose of these waste nets and they drown. So most of the time, what you see in terms of mortality or this washing away of carcasses are not necessarily attributed only to water pollution. They also can be because of this, you know, uh, undisposed of kind of nets lying all across the ocean beds, all over. It's not just the problem of India. I think it's the problem of the world.
Okay. So now, since Ocean Day is coming closer, there's a lot of activity happening in terms of cleaning up of beaches, cleaning up of the coastline. But then the waste again comes and piles up. So is there a solution to this? I mean, cleaning the beach is
That's
a
what
solution.
that's what I have said. Cleaning of minds is what is really essential than cleaning of beaches because if your minds are cleaned up and if you change our habits of disposing of garbage, in that sense, our beaches will get cleaned automatically because the same garbage, which is going back to the sea. See, the best part of the sea doesn't keep anything within itself. It gives you back with interest. So, you throw 1 ton, you will get 2 ton, not just from Mumbai, from other places also. Uh, but I think we got to change our habits. And unless we do that, no amount of, cleaning is going to be suffice because you'll be able to clean 1 kilometer stretch, 2 kilometer stretch. You won't be able to clean 8,000 kilometers of coastline. It's virtually impossible even with all might of 1.2 billion people. Cleaning ocean because this dirt will come every day because we are pumping in this waste every day into the sea. So unless our source is stopped completely, this waste will keep coming to the beaches. It doesn't mean that we should not clean. Of course, we should clean and try to make as much as we could. But that's, you have a gangrene and you're trying to put a band-aid on, that wound and expecting it to heal. That's not going to happen.
So apart from the mindset part which you just spoke about, there are certain areas which don't even have a proper waste management or a waste disposal system. So in that case, what role could the government play here in actually streamlining the entire thing so that once the waste management is planned out properly, then at least the dump won't come and lie on the coastline. So what do you think about this?
Every time when we have nothing else to argue, we start blaming governments. The government is not doing anything. Government is made up of all of us. It's not an entity which came from nowhere. These are our own people. You see, eventually government will have its own limitation in terms of what best they could do. And 1.2 billion people compared to maybe 100,000 people in the government system who are trying to deal with this issue is a disproportionate kind of an argument. I think government, I mean, you look at the Prime Minister's whole ambition for, Swachh Bharat. I think it is one of the most remarkable program in that sense. So government has put down its intent. We are trying to make it ceremonial because our minds are not cleaned up.
Yeah.
I think to make Swachh Bharat clean, we have to first, swatch our minds in that sense. Then you will see transformation. I mean, I can't believe that, the way we have progressed in science, we do not have ability to, clean our environment. We do have. I think somewhere, this aspect is lacking within us. And I think that spark has to happen at some point of time. Otherwise, no amount of government schemes will be able to, deal with this problem. I'm pretty sure about it because I've been seeing this for the last 30 years, at least that I know, that there have been empty number of schemes have come up in terms of, pollution control, cleaning of wastewater. I think they are extremely ceremonial in some of those aspects. We have to, take this program as a 21st century challenge for us as a nation. Unless we take this up, it's always will remain, ambition which is kind of not supported by bulk of, our population.
So if you were to list down a few things that common people like you and me would start doing from today. Okay, fine. We need to start these basic things from now on, which will actually contribute in keeping our oceans and our beaches clean. So what would those things be?
You see, there are two things which I believe individually we can always look at it. First thing is you educate ourselves. Because you educate ourselves, we will change our own, ways of the way we live. Uh, we have been teaching in schools. I have joined BNHS education officer way back in '93, and I have been teaching school kids since then that don't use plastic bags. For everything you buy, take a jute bag or take a cloth bag, which has much longer life and it also looks very trendy. What is the population today of this country? Practice that. It's very very dismal. You see, if plastic bag is an issue, you have to get plastic bag out of system. And I'm not saying every single plastic bag. I'm saying the disposable plastic bag which create nuisance. Because plastic bags is a user, a necessity. Doesn't mean that we have to write off all plastic bags, but at least those plastic bags, which we can certainly get rid of. That is something which we can do individually. I don't use plastic bag. I never used in the last 30 years. In my house, it's totally prohibited item, to bring vegetables, to bring all grocery in plastic bags. You always get it into, cotton bag, jute bag. If every family start doing this, I mean, look at Mumbai population. If 20 million people decide to get away with these plastic bags, you reduce 20 million at least plastic bag every day. It's a huge number. I think it is achievable goal. It's not something which is impossible. It's just that you have to, take that one call that no, I will not use plastic bag from today. I think if we take those small steps as individuals, it also contributes hugely. I think the second aspect which I always get amazed. I've been traveling in Mumbai trains for last almost 2.5 decades. And even the most educated class which I see traveling there, when you drink water and one bottle is empty, you throw it on the tracks. When you eat small chocolate wrapper, throw it wrapper on the tracks. I think these are small things, but add to the volume of the garbage which we create, which goes again back into the sea. So all these small habits individually, if we change, I think will make certainly a huge difference to our, not just ocean, but to our forest and our, all these open lands, which are today so filthy.
Correct, correct. But I do agree with you because no matter how educated you are, people still just forget all those things when they have a wrapper or they have a plastic bottle in their hand. They just crush it and throw it off. They don't
Have
know.
you have you seen a foreigner which is traveling on beach ever disposing of waste
Oh
like
no, no,
this?
I have not seen that.
In
That's
fact,
why
they
I'm
will
asking.
pick it up. If there is a garbage on beaches, they will pick it up, put it in pocket, and put it in the
Correct.
dustbin. I think that's a genetic structure, which over a course of time these people must have evolved. I think we will need a generational change in that sense. That it happens by default. No amount of education will be able to. I mean, what kind of education you require to all those people traveling in, Mumbai? I think bulk of them are serving, class. They're all educated.
Yeah,
At least they are graduated, post-graduated, or working sector. They don't need education. I think they need somewhere, this sensitization that look what they're doing is not correct. Today they don't feel anything about it. For them it's like a way of life.
correct. So, moving ahead to just talking about now ships, boats, and cargo vessels, they happen to use oceans on a larger scale than the normal people to transport goods and services over long distances. And we have heard of things like oil spills happening very on and off. So, what precautions, or as a shipping sector as a fraternity, what precautions or what can they do in order to contribute to reducing the plastic pollution or reducing any harm that is caused to the oceans while they use it?
I think practicing, good governance is much more easier for a sector which is well established. I can imagine enforcing cleanliness for 1.2 billion people is a challenge. But fishing or the shipping industry, which is a very well established industry, it's not that they don't know what the legislation is. So, and there are a number of laws, which govern the shipping sector. They are not supposed to dispose of untreated waste in the sea. The Point is whether they do or don't, or who's going to check that? See, we do not have any kind of an enforcement mechanism as such in this country to see what happens offshore. So bulk of the things which happens are offshore, especially in shipping sector. Once they are docked, they are not going to dispose of all their waste into the sea where they are docked. But when they're offshore, that is where the whole monitoring is essential. I think monitoring is one part. Again, self-regulation is also very, very important in that sense. I think some of the international large, shipping firms are, looking into these issues seriously. And they're much better today than what they used to be. Be it, issue of ballast, be it issue of, oil spills. Oil spills will continue to happen. Accidents will continue to happen. There is no mechanism by which you can make shipping industry 100% accident proof. That's not possible. The question is, are we equipped, ourselves as a nation to deal with these incidents? Because our shipping sector is going to increase. We are now expanding, into inland waterways as one mode of transport. It means we are actually increasing our footprint, both in oceans as well as freshwater, very rapidly. But unfortunately, our mitigation mechanism is simply not in place. So on one side, we expand our infrastructure, but we do not expand our capability to deal with the disaster that will happen because of the expanded infrastructure. I think both things has to go hand to hand, which unfortunately is not happening. I think that is one of the governance issues which government need to look at. Is that yes, we require certainly much efficient, transport system. Certainly, there is no doubt about that. Be it Mumbai or large urban areas or smaller areas. But at the same time, how will ensure that we have adequate infrastructure to deal when the mishaps happen? I think that is a greater challenge. We never said we don't want to, develop waterways. But while developing waterways, are we developing simultaneously, the infrastructure to deal with these issues? I think that is something which certainly only government can do. This is something which you and I cannot do. So there are certain areas which, of course, government also need to improve on those areas. But you're right that shipping sector has got a direct and indirect impact, especially these large cargo ships when they are traveling in nearshore waters. There are issues of its impact on the traditional fishing areas, for example. The impact on large migratory species like whales and whale sharks, which a lot of them get killed because of propeller heads world over. It's not just case for India. And these always are areas for improvement, even for shipping sector. Now, very simple example I will give. Now, for example, we have got in fisheries sector what is something called as the fish tracking devices. Now, there is a satellite-based map which every fishing boat, large trawler will get. They know where exactly this large shoal of fish are, so they can go and catch them. To make it fishing more efficient. Why we cannot have similar system on these commercial ships where they'll be able to track movement of these large mammals through sonar system? Why they cannot be fed with satellite feed on movement of these mammals? I think a lot of these propeller heads could be easily avoided if there is a guided mechanism to the shipping sector. Today it is not there, unfortunately. So when they are in nearshore water, and when a large pod of whales or large pod of dolphins or large congregation of sea turtles are moving, they are destined to come within this propeller heads. I think these are the more science-based avenues we have to explore, and shipping sector must adopt this as a new way of looking at shipping.
Correct. Correct. Agree to you. So it's more like a mixture of the individual intent as well as science that needs to come into play in order to keep this thing in check. Correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, technology is there. We are using technology everywhere. Why cannot use it for some of these areas? Certainly, technology is one part of the solution. But I think, as I said, cleaning our minds is the biggest solution for this problem. Unless that happens, technology will have its own limitations.
Agree. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Apte.
Thank you.
So, viewers, as Dr. Apte said, so we can come up with government can come up with a lot of solutions. entrepreneurs can come up with a lot of technology to keep the plastic pollution in check, but it ultimately it boils down to you and me, how we as individuals are going to contribute to reducing this problem which we are facing headlong in front of us. So let's pledge, to do something on our individual end. Start disposing of our waste properly. Stop using plastic bags in the first place, so that it doesn't go and get dumped off in the ocean, and will get piled up on the coastline. So have a good Oceans Day, and I hope you have picked up some very good insights from this hangout. Please leave your comments on the comment box below. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye.